Dixon here from Digital Nomad Kit, and I am here today with a very special guest, Amanda Hathorn. Amanda is the founder of Get a Life at Sea, and she helps people find jobs on cruise ships, which is an awesome thing. I've been working with her in the past. I know her very well from some online business programs we're in together. She's an awesome person with a lot of great knowledge for you guys. So hi and welcome, Amanda.
Hi, Anna. I'm so happy to be here. I'm so happy to be able to connect and to talk about this, talk some ship and talk about this awesome life that for your whole following. Yay!
Awesome. So do you want to tell us a little bit about your background and how you got into doing this and all about you basically?
Yes.
Awesome.
So basically, I'm Amanda. I own and operate a company called getalifeatsea.com. I started that about 3 years ago, but back in 2000, I actually started working on cruise ships. So I completed 10 years working on board in a variety of roles, from activity staff to security to crew training to onboard HR manager finally in 2010. I got off ships then and came shoreside and got really a lot deeper into cruise ship recruitment. But I noticed there was a huge gap in information out there for people wanting to break into the industry, because it's a really hard industry to figure out how to get into if you haven't been on a ship before. So from that, I created a guide. That was sort of my only, 3 years ago, that was the initial plan: write a book, create a guide, a how-to guide for people. And then from there, from talking with my clients and purchasers of the guide, my business has kind of grown now to expand a whole bunch of different products and now services to help people get paid to travel the world, which is super awesome.
Awesome. And how long did you work on cruise ships? Sorry, did you say that already?
A decade, yeah. 10 years.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
And where are you now? Where are you tuning in from?
Yeah, so I'm in Revelstoke, BC, Canada now, the home of the world's or North America's most renowned ski resort really right now. It's the highest vertical right now in North America. So yeah, that was actually why initially in 2010 I got off. I missed snowboarding a lot when I was working on cruise ships. So I took a small break and then, as they say, got Revel stuck. And kind of got stuck into the snow. But I actually did just finish 3 months in New Zealand and Australia, traveling with my son.
Yeah, you still get about a bit, don't you? You're here and there.
So I do try and travel at least 3 to 6 months of the year, but this is the base, for now, and it's awesome. And I'm so excited for you to come soon too.
Yeah, I'll be there in June. I'm really excited. Yeah. Okay, cool. Well, one of the reasons that I got Amanda in today, guys, was because it might not be apparent, but there are positions on cruise ships for people with digital skills. So I know a lot of you are, whether you're web developers, virtual assistants, whatever your kind of background, those skills can be applied to work on cruise ships. So Amanda, maybe you just want to talk about that a bit more, and then we can go into some questions if there's questions, and I have some questions for you too. So I'll get you to answer those things.
So it's really cool. I mean, really the tech world on cruise ships, it has changed drastically over the last 5 years, the last 10 years, but specifically over the last 3 to 5 years. The satellite internet is getting way better on board. There are definitely a few cruise lines out there that are way ahead of the others, but they're all of them are sort of catching up. But through the advancement of tech and the demand that passengers now have to be able to access their work while they're traveling and also access social media and all this stuff, all these new tech positions have been created in the last 5 years on cruise ships. So there's some really cool new roles that have just come out. There's always been what's called a computer officer on board. That is the individual that manages all of the computer systems on board, as you can imagine, from point of sale terminals to reservation systems to electronic key cards. So it's a big job. Usually that person has about a team of 6 underneath them, helping them to manage everything on board, computer related. Yeah. There's computer systems specialist, which helps the computer officer. There's a new role that's just been created in the last couple of years because the computer officer was getting overwhelmed with this other part of the job, which was managing the passenger internet cafe. Obviously now, with more and more passengers wanting to share their experiences on board and communicate with home, there needed to be a designated person in the passenger internet cafe to sort of help people log on, get onto the sat Wi-Fi, all that kind of stuff. So there's one person now called technology host with a lot of cruise lines, and their only job is to hang out in the passenger internet cafe for a few hours a day, help people log on, and help people share their experiences. So those are kind of those are 3 new ones. Another new one that only one cruise line had up until about a year ago was a new position called media manager. This individual really creates their own work hours. They have their own office, and what they do is create graphics and update all of the new graphic terminals around the ship, because obviously now all the promos and all this really, cool new stuff that the ship is doing with regards to daily activities. It used to be paper, and now it's all these really cool digital displays. So now cruise lines have to have a specific person just for that runs around the ship, creates all these really neat graphics, and makes sure that the cruise lines apps are working properly too. So Carnival has this right now, and Royal Caribbean is just in the process of launching it. They call it something slightly different. They call it Digital Manager, but you can see where it's all going. Like the cruise lines, they're all jumping on the bandwagon. We've got Virgin Cruise Lines launching in 2020, brand new cruise line. Richard Branson's new baby is coming out, and that's going to be like the top end of tech. Yeah. Yeah.
That's amazing. I just never thought that any of these things would exist, which is just incredible for me. So, I mean, in terms of what are the most valuable skills to have, what would you say they would be?
I would have to say, because these roles are really vary, there's like a whole bunch of things that you could have that would work. If you have any graphic design skills, if you have any basic troubleshooting or tech or communication skills when it comes to technology, coding, development, that can help for sure. But, all of the roles that I've talked about, even if you're just someone that's like pretty good at tech, but is really good at customer service and is able to help people get and kind of understand what we kind of take for granted is like just general technology. I mean, we are talking about some of these cruise lines that deal primarily with the baby boomer demographic, and sometimes they literally just need help getting onto Facebook, so it can be anything from basic skills to more advanced, for sure.
Awesome. And maybe you could answer a few questions I have about working on cruise ships.
Yeah.
So in general, how much time do you get to yourself?
That is a really good question. If for more information, people can definitely check out my YouTube channel. I've got a YouTube channel, just search Get a Life at Sea. I've got like 40 plus videos, more to come soon. I'm a little behind, but I do go into this topic in depth. But for the roles that I'm talking about, I would say really, really generally pretty good port time. With the passenger internet cafe host, I mean, you're kind of just helping people log on when you're at sea mostly. A lot of the guests on port days are off enjoying the sights, so there won't probably be too many requirements there. Media manager is you make your own hours. And so really when I tell people is when you're working on a cruise ship, typically the contracts are 4 to 6 months in duration. The cruises that the guests are on are 7 to 10 days in duration, 3 or 4 sea days, 3 or 4 port days. So sea days are long days. Everyone's working long days. Everyone's on the ship. So those are probably gonna be your busiest days. And then the port days, expect to work maybe a little bit in the morning, a little bit when the ship sets sail in the evening, and then having like a half day or a full day to go off and enjoy the sights and do that kind of stuff at least a couple times a week. Yeah.
Awesome. Cool. And we have a question from Paolo here. He's asking, I'm going to put it up on the screen as well so everyone can see that. What about working with languages on a cruise ship, like interpreter roles, translating information and customer service? Are there positions for that?
Yes, actually, there's a specific role with many cruise lines called international host. This person works near the purser's desk, but typically has their own desk. And basically their job is taking the daily activities, whether it's digital or paper, translating them into 2 to 3 different languages. It's always great if you're somebody applying for that role that you have at least 2 to 3 additional languages. And then just conversing with the different guests on board that primarily speak that language. So the big languages to have right now, the hot languages, massive need right now, are Mandarin, Japanese, Korean. The cruise lines right now, the Chinese cruise market is just beginning to boom, and the cruise lines are jumping on the bandwagon. Every major cruise line right now is building ships either in Asia or just specifically for the Chinese market. So the need now for translators with those specific languages are huge, but of course the other languages as well, European, etc., are always in demand as well.
Amazing. Awesome. Guys, if you're enjoying this, give us some hearts so we know that you're listening in and you are liking what's going on here. Amanda is full of awesome knowledge, so soak this up. We do have another question here in the event feed. It said, I'd love to do this type of work. This is from Ayla. I'm already halfway there, but I think my fear is the term of commitment. Do you find there are more flexible working arrangements for those of us with these skills? Cruise shops tend to advertise for 6 months commitments in general from what I've seen.
Yeah, generally most positions, at least with the digital positions we've been talking about thus far, generally are in the 4 to 6 month range. So 4 to 6 months on, 2 months off. So yes, there are some positions on board that are more flexible short term, but they wouldn't be tech related. The positions short term that do exist are things like seasonal youth activity staff, lifeguarding, seasonal security youth staff, and I think that's it for now. Basically, the seasonal short-term positions are positions that are needed when there are a higher volume of kids on board, which tends to happen during big holidays like Christmas and Easter and summer and stuff like that. Yeah.
Awesome. Okay, maybe you could tell us a little bit about what would you say are the top 3 things? I'm putting you on the spot here because we didn't talk about this. The top 3 things in your experience that really make working on a cruise ship like awesome.
Oh man. Okay. Well, there's so many things, but I would have to say for sure, 100% the travel. That is massive. Over the 10 years that I worked on board, I've been to every single continent in the world except Antarctica, and I've been paid to do it, including like Iceland, Greenland, just some like crazy places. I've even been to an island in the middle of the Atlantic that isn't even on most maps called Tristan da Cunha. It's a tiny island. It has like less than, Google it. It's only 7 families that live on the island. It's super remote. So the travel for sure, getting to see all these places and actually get paid to do it is like bar none, number 1 reason. Number 2, the money. A lot of times people, you know, especially even when I started as well, the starting salaries, entry salaries are generally what most people would consider sound kind of low. If you haven't worked on a cruise ship before and you're going into an entry-level role, you kind of tend to start in the 1,200 to 1,500 USD range per month, which I know sounds kind of low. However, here's the thing about money. All of your accommodations paid for, all of your food paid for, you have no expenses. And so usually what I tell candidates and potential crew members is, I want you to consider what you spend month to month. And then if after all of that, you actually save anywhere between 1,000 and 1,500 a month after that, I will be shocked. Not only that, but you know, 5 years into my 10 years, I moved up to an officer level role. And my salary tripled. And then by the time I finished, my salary from my starting salary was like 6 times what I started at. So I was making bank. So as you get promoted, there isn't like short jumps in salary. As you get promoted, there's massive jumps. So the ability to make and save a ton of money is astronomical. Actually, in my first full-time year working on board, because I worked the first 5 years, I was still in university, so I was going seasonal, like 4 to 6 months a year. And then the first full-time year I did on board, year 5, I was able to pay off over $35,000 in student loans in 1 year. Wow. So that was crazy. Like, boom, that was amazing. And then the third thing, of course, is the people, because it's a very rare opportunity that you get to have to actually work and live in a microcosm of the entire world. You get to work and live with like 55 different nationalities at one time. So it's like, it is really, really cool to live and work with the whole world, basically. Yeah.
Amazing. You're selling me on it now. Okay. So, and you know, let's be honest, there are downsides to everything. What would you say are, you know, the things that you didn't love so much, just so people are very aware? Yeah, I mean, I loved it personally, but there definitely are, like, when you first start, there are some struggles for sure. You know, you are going to miss some holidays and special events with friends and family because you're going to be away. So, you know, you're going to miss some special stuff. I've only been to one of my friends' weddings ever. I think I'm the only like 39-year-old that's only been to one wedding. And that's because I was always away. So you are going to miss some special events. That is a con. You do work 7 days a week. I never minded that, but for some people that might be a bit of a struggle. Some days are obviously less hours than other days. And like some days when you have a day off, you're like in Bora Bora. So, you know, pros and cons, but that can be a struggle. And then living and working in the same environment. So you're living in a space and working in it. And sometimes people do struggle with, like, you really sometimes feel like you can't get away from it. So there is that aspect, but that can also be a huge pro as well, because it does create a really tight-knit family atmosphere. Right. So yeah, with every con, I feel like there's a pro as well at the same time. Yeah, for sure. And I guess, like, for a lot of people watching, you know, a lot of people who might be watching this are digital nomads or aspiring to be digital nomads. Some of these kind of cons are things that you would experience anyway, like missing, you know, certain family events or Christmases or, you know, stuff like that. But that goes, you know, hand in hand with living this kind of lifestyle. So I don't think it's any different really, aside from the fact that you're on a ship and that dictates where you're going.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, if anything, I think all of the challenges that I did experience over that 10 years have only made my lifestyle now that much easier. Because now I'm like, yeah, no big deal. Like,
Yeah,
you know, let's make it work.
yeah, for sure. Okay, we have a couple more questions here. I'm just going to say hi to Cody, Mello. Sorry if I just butchered your name. Apologies for that. Got a few people jumping on here. Hi, guys. Elaine is asking, never really looked into cruise ships before. Where would we find job offerings? I know that you do teach this in your paid program, but do you have any couple of little nuggets you could give us now?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, so obviously I do have it in my paid Cruise Ship Jobs 101. I also have a starter kit and a guide that kind of like leads people in the right direction. But if you're just getting started in the research, I would definitely say head over to my YouTube channel. There's great free resources there regarding how to get started, especially my earlier videos, because I talk about general requirements, like application tips, that kind of stuff. But I would say pick like 5 to 8 brands that you like, that you feel sort of like support your own mission and ethos and the demographic that you'd like to serve. Start looking at their websites. The career pages for those major brands are really hard to find because what I find that people tend to forget is cruise line websites are designed for the guests. They're not designed for potential employees. So when you go to their brand websites, it's like, where do I even start? So try to look at like the different career pages if you can locate them. But again, yeah, check out my free resources and also potentially paid up. You know, check out the paid resources too because it's all there. But yeah, pick 5 to 8, do some research, and then start to think about what you've done already. Typically, most cruise lines do like to see at least 1 to 2 years of like relevant or related experience for any of their onboard roles.
Awesome. I'm just dropping your website here for people. Amanda's website to check out her offerings.
Yeah, so it's just Get a Life at Sea everywhere, guys. Like social media, website.
Get a Life at Sea.
Get a Life at Sea everywhere.
So we have a question here from Sherry. Sherry's asking, are there any positions for non-millennials?
Oh, heck yeah. Actually, I have a whole video on my YouTube channel actually dedicated to, are you too old to work on a cruise ship? Because a lot of people have this sort of like assumption that, you know, working on a cruise ship is only for like 20 somethings. And that's totally a myth. Actually, most of my clients, most of my high-end service clients are 45 plus. Wow. Yeah, cruise lines love to have a mix of ages working on board. Actually, the oldest crew member I've personally worked with was 85 years old.
Wow.
Now, that was Patty. Patty was a seasonal youth staff grandma. She was awesome. Now, that is not the norm, obviously. But yeah, no, there are definitely, any job on board is the only requirement that cruise lines have is you have to be typically 21 or over because you do need to meet American age of majority. And then their only requirement for maximum age, there is no requirement for maximum age. The only thing that you need to make sure is that you're going to pass, that you feel that you'd pass the pre-employment medical check, that you feel like you're in good physical condition, because when you're working on board a cruise ship, your medical is provided by the cruise line. So this want to make sure generally you're joining in a good state.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
And I just actually wanted to go back to what you were saying before in terms of, you know, where to find the positions and kind of stalking the companies first to make sure that they're a good match. And that's very much what I teach my virtual assistants to do as well. Instead of going to apply randomly to jobs, like actually seeking out, is it a good fit for me? Do they have the same ethics of me? Are these places I would even want to go? I just think that's really good to highlight again, because it's something that I stress a lot, is that you don't always have to apply to opportunities. You can make your own opportunities. If you're like the perfect person for something, it's your job to let them know that you are the perfect person for that, because you've done your research. Yeah,
for sure. That is so true. And actually, I have like one of the whole modules in the Cruise Ship Jobs 101 course is all about like how to find the perfect fit, like the perfect brand for you. Because every brand is not for everyone. Some brands are like super big and have like 20 ships. Some brands are super small and only have 5 and go to certain other ports in the world. So yeah, try to think about who do you want to serve, where do you want to go in the world, and like what kind of atmosphere do you want on board? Do you want like a huge like 2,000 crew member family, or do you want to work somewhere where you only have like 300 or 400 other coworkers? So like that's something to consider as well.
Speaking of the coworkers, have you like built friendships that have lasted a lifetime from that? Surely you would, with so much time together.
Crazy. I think I went through my personal Facebook like last year, like, you know, you just go through and you're kind of like looking at all your friends. And I really quickly started to realize that like 85% of my friends are like ship peeps. And that's the thing. Like,
it sounds like
I know, they're ship people. But yeah, you do, because the really cool thing about working on ships over the 10-year period and working on a number of different ships, like you end up, it's a very small world, although it's a big world when it comes to cruise ship industry. People move lines, and you might work with one person, one contract, and then 5 years later on a different cruise line, you're on the same ship again. Like, so yeah, you definitely make friends for a lifetime. It's a very tight-knit family environment. And then when you get off, whether it's on vacation or you're done with ships, anywhere you are in the world, you can like literally go online and be like, hey, I'm in Sydney. Yeah. Who wants to hang out? And there'll be like 10 people that are like, oh, hey. So yeah, it's pretty cool.
That's really cool. We have another question here from Summer. She asked, does cruise ship photographer fall into a digital category? If so, what skills and credentials would be needed for that?
Good question. So yes, most cruise lines have completely moved to digital photography. And that's it's still a massive department. It's actually one of the top, I talk about in my course, one of the top 5 starting entry-level positions is photography. It's awesome. So yes, they do require at least 1 to 2 years of studio or freelance work ashore when you're applying for that role. But depending on the line that you're with, it can be really lucrative. Some cruise lines offer massive commissions for portrait sales, that kind of stuff. It's a fast-paced job, and it's definitely a busy job because it's 7 days a week and you're trying to get as many shots as possible of all the events, and you've got formal nights and stuff like that. But yeah, I still have friends that are on board that are photo managers now on board, and they haven't left. So they're like on year 12 or something like that.
Oh,
so
wow.
Some people love it.
Awesome. I hope that helped you out somewhere. That's really cool to know. Something I wanted to ask actually was, so some of the positions, what was the name of the position you said, the person who helps people logging in? And
so technology host. I mean, depending on the line, it's slightly different terminology, but yeah, generally technology host.
Okay, and what could people expect from that salary-wise if they're just starting?
So probably, depending on the line, probably somewhere in the 15 to 25 range USD per month. And that would often come with your own cabin, and it would often come with passenger status as well.
You say per month or per hour?
Per month.
$15.
No, 1,500 to 2,500.
Like, what?
You're like, what? No, 1,500 to 2,500 USD per month. I would think, for that role with your own cabin, with passenger status, which is really cool. Again, I talk about in the course, I think it's module 1, all the different hierarchies of crew. So there's crew, staff, officer. So all the roles, tech roles that we're talking about today are either staff or officer roles. And then the technology host is actually like this outside role that's like passenger status, which is kind of cool. It's like your crew, but you have like full passenger area access.
Like a bit more autonomy, I guess, as well.
A bit more autonomy, because it's like it's part of your job to network with the guests, get to know them.
It's kind of fun. I like that idea.
Yeah.
I'm thinking about it for me. Matamello has a question here. Apparently I pronounced that correctly, so that's awesome. Says, joined in tad late. I'm not sure if you covered this, but I know one covers cost for pre-medical exams, criminal checks, visas. What about your first flight to your first cruise ship job? Okay, so is anything sort of covered? Is that out of pocket? What to expect?
Yeah, I actually, so on my YouTube channel, I have a whole video, and also in the course, there's a whole module all on just this.
YouTube video, because it seems like there's a lot of good stuff there.
Yeah, So those are all really good questions. It kind of tends to vary a little bit from cruise line to cruise line, but yes, generally speaking, you'll need a pre-employment medical. Most cruise lines will require you to pay for that. It's usually good for a 2-year period. Generally, it's about $200-300. And then there's usually a pre-employment criminal records check. That's usually done every year. That's usually, depending on the country that you're in, like 25 to $50. And then there's what's called your C1D visa, which is if you're working for an American cruise line, which allows you to work on board in an American line in international waters. You don't need that visa if you are American or Canadian. You just need it if you're any other nationality. So that's something to think about too. It's really easy to get. It's like $80 in most cases. It's good for a number of years. And then the last item, of course, is your passport. You'll need that. And then with regards to flights, it really kind of varies. There are some cruise lines that provide flights. All of the cruise lines I've ever worked for and that I work with currently all provide flights to crew from day one. Flights to and from are provided. And even if they're not, like there are some cruise lines that have a little thing like Royal Caribbean, for example, if you're a new crew member, we'll do something called, they'll make you fly your own way to your first contract, and then every contract thereafter you have all your flights covered. So, but even if they require you to book your own flight, their flight department will help you book it. So it'll be like dirt cheap, like I had to book one. Well, they use all the airlines, so it's like $500 from like Vancouver to Singapore. You know, like it'll be cheap. And not only that, side tip, guys, I have another video on this, but when they're booking your flights, even if you don't pay for it, you get to keep the miles, like the little air miles. Oh, wow. So whatever airline they book you for, my tip is always like get the air miles card because you get the air miles. So yeah, so a little bit of out-of-pocket expense initially with the medical and criminal, but typically with a good big brand, that's going to be your only cost.
Amazing. Cool. Barbara says she's been watching, but she's heading off to the airport. Ciao, Barbara. Thank you so much for watching. Any more questions, guys? Give us some likes, give us some hearts, share this out if you think this is awesome information. I think it is. If people can benefit from this, share it with your audiences too. But give us some likes. Let us know if you have any more questions. We'll stick around for another 5-10 minutes. Also, I'm going to get you, Amanda, to talk a little bit more about your program, because when you were setting that up, I remember that it was packed full of awesome stuff. But I would love for you to share that with my audience too, because I think if anyone is really interested in that, there is no one better that I would recommend to go to learn about working on a cruise ship.
Thanks so much.
You're very welcome. So any more questions, guys? We'll just wait a couple more minutes for that. Amanda, is there anything else you want to talk about related to working on a cruise ship? Any sort of weird facts, or maybe you could tell us a fun story when you were on a ship?
Oh man, the stories.
What's the best place you've been to?
The best place I've been to probably is with Pinot Australia. I worked with 4 cruise lines. I started with Princess. I went over to Cunard. I went over to Royal Caribbean, and then I ended with Pinot Australia. 3 of those lines are actually affiliated, so I just kind of moved within the family. But the line I ended up with was Pinot Australia, and I really loved them. They're a really small company, but if you check out their website, like they're super on their social media. They have great branding. They only have 5 ships right now, but they are based primarily out of Australia and New Zealand, and they only really do the South Pacific. And I love the South Pacific. My favorite spots are Vanuatu, which is like a grouping of over 100 islands. And it is so cool. And the ships are a lot smaller. So when you actually arrive in these islands, you don't kind of feel like you're taking over the place. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like you can kind of find your own little spot, and it doesn't really feel overly developed. So those are definitely my favorite spots. Yeah, for sure.
That's awesome. I'm so like dead set on hitting up the South Pacific in the next year or 2. But I want to do like island hopping, and maybe I'll take a cruise.
Yeah, Piano is great for that. And even if you're just a guest, they have like amazing deals, like such good deals, very, very affordable, nice 3- and 5-day cruises for like $500 that include, everything, all your food and the travel, and so it's nice. A lot of people think air travel is cheaper, but sometimes going on a ship is actually cheaper.
Yeah, for sure. Actually, I had a question about that, because I was looking recently into relocation cruises. So, it's when they're going back to wherever they need to be, right? Mm-hmm. Do they ever have crew on board for that?
Yes.
Aside from the obvious,
Yeah.
Ship move crew.
They do. So usually like all of the crew will stay on in a relocation cruise. Sometimes there will be guests on board, which then you'll get like crazy cheap deals for relocations.
Yeah.
And then if there's not guests, typically what will happen is there'll be renovations happening. So they'll bring on a team of contractors and they'll do renovations on all or part of the ship while the ship's actually moving. Huh. So right now, a lot of ships are gearing up to get relocated because we have Alaska season starting May and the beginning of May. And Alaska season is huge. If anyone's been to Alaska in the summer to any of the big ports like Juneau or Skagway, there can be upwards of like 10 to 15 ships in a port on the same day. It is crazy. So like for example, Princess will have almost half of their fleet just doing Alaska from May to September. Wow. So right now, all the ships are gearing up to get ready to move. That movement will start to happen in April, and they'll be moving from like either, you know, Mexico or Australia. They'll be bringing the ships back over to start the Alaska season. So those transatlantic and transpacific crossings are really cool too. If you can get on a ship that's doing those, because then you get to hit up some really, like I've done like Alaska to Australia a couple times, and then you get to hit up like Hawaii, Bora Bora, nice. like Tahiti, all that along the way. So it's pretty neat.
That's awesome. We got Kiri in the house. How's it going, Kiri?
Hi, fellow BC lady.
Yeah, we're so excited to visit you in June. We're talking about that a lot. Okay, guys, I'm not seeing any more questions, but you can drop them later today. I'm sure, Amanda, you'll be able to pop in and out over the next sort of 24, 48 hours. If there's any really good questions there, we'll get those answered. If you're watching the replay, thank you for watching up till now. And I'm going to talk a little bit about your program, Amanda, because it's really awesome. And I want people to know about it. And I'm going to drop a link now, and you can talk about it in a bit more depth. So this is Amanda's signature program for learning how to get a job on a cruise ship, and it covers a lot of stuff. Like, it is jam-packed full of brilliant information that's going to help you land your first awesome job on a cruise ship. So there's the link, guys. And Amanda, if you want to talk a bit about what's involved, what's in there, what people can expect, what the costs are, all that kind of stuff, that would be awesome.
Cool. Thanks so much. Well, like this, I'm so glad you had me on, because honestly, guys, like Hannah and Kiri are like one of the reasons this course exists in its amazing way right now. So yeah, there's basically 8 modules. It includes like literally everything that is important when it comes to getting a job on a cruise ship, from like the initial research to finding the best brand for you, to shipboard hierarchy, to all of the available positions, to what I recommend are the best starting positions, to, you know, salary structures, like anything that you want to know, it's in this course. So yeah, 8 modules. You've got everything, as I said, from the shipboard hierarchy, positions, salaries, best cruise line for you. Somebody asked earlier about, you know, what kind of documents and what does the company typically cover? Like, that's all in there. Then I go into how to apply, how to write your cover letter, how to do your resume. I actually have samples in the course that I actually show you how to put that together. Nice. I talk about how to interview. I've got sample interviews as well. I have a whole module on how to make sure that you're applying to a legitimate recruiter, because sadly, there are a lot of illegitimate recruiters out there. So I have a whole module just dedicated to that.
Like Craigslist and Gumtree and stuff like that.
Or they're posing as cruise lines, but they're not really. So stuff like that. And you know, I always say on my YouTube channel too, and I deal with this a lot. I always say, even if like you are not a client of mine and you haven't paid for a service, if you're unsure of something, you get a letter from someone, you're getting communication from a recruiter, and you're just not sure, send it to me. I am happy to take a look at it and
take them down
and make sure that it's legit, because I want to make sure you're getting the best. And then I have a whole bonus section on how to thrive during your life at sea, because we talked about some of the challenges earlier. So I have like a whole section about actually like how to make it the best experience possible for you. And then in there as well, of course, I've got my starter kits in the course, my guides in the course, and then sneaky little secret for you guys. If you finish the whole course, at the end, there's a little like summary or survey you can do. And actually, I throw in a custom resume consult personalized for you when you do the course. So if you go to my services, you'll see like that's a whole nother service, but like I put it in there for you guys as part. It's not noted as part of the course, but yeah, you get a whole personalized consult as well.
That's amazing. And you know what I love about you, Amanda? I love just how much passion you have for that. Like everything, just the way you delivered that, the way you've spoken today. You can see that it's something you're really passionate about, really knowledgeable about. So you guys will be in really great hands if you do decide to take that course. And what is the investment on that course if people wanted to join?
So it's $147.
That's US dollars?
Yeah, US. And then in that, as I said, you get the starter kit, which is like a $7 value, the guide, which is $47, and then the consult, which is like $167. So like basically you're getting the course for free.
Yeah, that's incredible. Thank you so much for sharing that with us today, and thank you so much for being here today. Has anyone got any last questions? Just drop them now. We'll stay for like a minute more. I just again want to say thank you so much, Amanda. This has been really informative. I hope you guys have got a lot out of it. Give us some hearts, give us some loves if you enjoyed this. You can follow Amanda at getalifeatsea.com. I've dropped her YouTube channel. I will send out the replay to my email list. If you're not on that, get on that. And yeah, awesome. Thank you so much, Amanda.
Thanks so much, guys. Thanks for having me. We'll talk to you all soon.
Ciao, guys. Drop your questions as well. We'll come back later and answer them too. Okay. Ciao. Bye, Amanda.
Bye.